Tesla's new Model Y refresh is here. Demo drives are widely available and deliveries should be starting within the next week or so. And as someone that has gotten to drive and spend time with this new Model Y, is it worth it? Are all of the improvements enough that you should sell your current Model Y and upgrade, or even pass up on the new Model 3? First up, let's talk about that launch series price, as we do have an update since my last video. While the launch series was technically a deal, assuming you were planning to buy a fully spec'd Model Y, if you weren't, then it was a lot more expensive than you were probably anticipating. However, as of this past week or so, Tesla has introduced non-launch series in markets outside of the US, which is normally a sign that it's coming to the US soon. In the UK, Tesla is now offering a rear-wheel drive long range, and all-wheel drive long range for several £1,000s cheaper. The long range all-wheel drive, which is essentially the same car as the launch series, is almost £10,000 cheaper. So if you were dead set on getting a rear-wheel drive long range, or just not spending $60,000 on the launch series, it looks like you're not gonna have to wait that long. And the delivery dates of those non-launch series are only about a month after the delivery dates of the launch series in those countries. As for the people that are holding out for the performance or even the 7-seater, those are coming. It's been confirmed by the VP of engineering at Tesla, Lars. Also, he said later this year, so hopefully we won't have to wait too long for them. I assume that we'll see them before they start the S and X refresh, which was confirmed by Lars as well. And by refresh, he just said that they're going to get some love, but I assume they're going to want to complete the Y lineup before starting on less volume vehicles. All right, as for my experience, let's start with the most important thing, the drive. If you're coming from a legacy Y, the car is going to handle and feel very similar. Very planted on the road, Tesla's classic acceleration feel, like low speed pedal calibration and the smooth speed ramp at higher speeds. Steering wheel weight can be changed. I drove it in the heavy setting, which is what I use in my smaller, more nimble 3, and it was pretty much dead on. The new Y also allows you to adjust deceleration speed, and yeah, you can definitely feel it. It's not like turning on roll or creep in older Teslas. The regen is still definitely there, just not as strong. Tesla also claims that this is not going to affect the amount of juice going back into your battery from regen. So if that's true, then this is just a personal preference thing. Yeah, it handles very much like a Tesla. So if you've driven a Tesla before and you like it, then you're gonna like this. Something that you'll like even more though, the suspension. It is an improvement over the previous Y's comfort suspension. Comfort suspension was introduced in late 2022. So if you're coming from a vehicle before that, then the suspension is a massive improvement. For people that want a comparison, it's more comfortable than the new 3. If you've driven a new 3 Performance with the adaptive suspension on the standard setting with a set of 18-inch wheels, the new Y on 19s feel very similar. Like they are neck and neck in terms of comfort, with honestly, I think the Y is more than likely edging it out. The more I think back to the drive and after driving the same route pretty much directly after on my new Model 3 with those 18s and adaptive suspension, yeah, I definitely think that the new Y just absorbed vibrations just ever so slightly more, which would make it Tesla's most comfortable suspension, right behind the S and X. Yes, I was getting some questions last week on how would I compare it to an X, and yeah, the X still wins hands down, though that is air suspension and that car is twice the price, so it's not really too surprising. And finally, the noise. Yes, an improvement over the legacy Y. If you're coming from a pre-front double paned glass Y like before 2021, then it's going to be a huge improvement. It sounds identical to new 3, which is pretty quiet as long as you're staying under that 80 to 90 mile per hour mark. The drive is a tremendous improvement. I really did enjoy myself. If you watched a lot of the old 3 versus new 3 reviews when those were coming out, then it's essentially that, but for the Y. As for exterior, not going to spend time here as it's all subjective. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. I will say that the people saying that it looked better in person, I agree with. I think that the front end definitely does look better in person. However, I think that the rear end looks even more better in person. But yeah, overall, I am a fan of the redesign. I still like the look of the old Y and an extension, the old 3. The old Y has now been on the road for 5 years, and if we go off the old 3, then that's like 7 years. So I think that the designs were just kind of getting a bit long in the tooth, and just seeing something different is a breath of fresh air. Now, unlike the exterior where it's all kind of just cosmetic, the interior is not just cosmetic, and there's a lot of improvements here. If you've watched any of the videos on my new 3, then you're gonna hear me repeat myself a lot here. I'm sorry. Yes, they did pretty much just copy the interior from the 3 to the Y, but they did change some things. Seats have been redesigned and added ventilation in the front and are still very comfortable, just like the legacy Model Y. However, I actually would say that they are slightly more comfortable, just like how the new 3's seats were slightly more comfortable than old 3. Center console area also fully updated with the dual sliding doors, while still retaining all the deep space that you've come to know and love from Tesla. Now, in the new Model Y that I was in, this center console area did not have any like squeaks or rattles, shaking, weird movements. The first Model 3 I drove, the first one that I demoed, that center console was awful. Like, I thought I was gonna hate it. However, mine much more sturdy. But the one in the Y that I drove was like completely rock solid. And I hope that this extends out to, actual customer cars, and over time, the center console holds up. As I saw quite a few new 3 owners, including my own 3, actually have problems post taking delivery with the center console area, the armrest squeaking, and actually now my cup holder door like slider, it no longer fully shuts. It gets almost there and then it just stops, and then I gotta push it on. I still think this center console design is a step up over the old one, just in terms of looks and feel. It feels very S and X, which are more premium vehicles, and that premium feel does carry over. As for premium feel, that extends to the rest of the interior. Everything is softer, things don't squeak when you push on them a little hard, the stitching on the dash and door armrest just look more premium. Tesla is still keeping that, very familiar minimalistic look, just with more premium materials. However, there was one thing, well, technically 2, but we'll get to the second one later, in the interior that I did not like: the turn signal. And not because I don't like it being there, or I think that it shouldn't be there. I actually don't care about like the whole turn signal versus not turn signal debate. I never had a problem with the turn signal buttons. I know some people did, but that's not why I don't like it. It's just that the turn signal on the new Model Y, it feels very much like an afterthought. It just doesn't feel like a Tesla turn signal. If you have a current or now old Model Y, please go drive the new Model Y. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about. It even looks like an afterthought, considering that it's this like shiny black plastic that doesn't really match anything surrounding it. Also, it only controls your turn signals. So no button on the end for wipers or pushing and pulling it for your high beams, or, well, there's no fog lights, but fog lights. The travel distance is also very short. It's the same distance, if not less, as the like half pull on the old Tesla stock. Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of the new turn signal. I can only assume I'll get used to it, just like how I got used to the buttons on the steering wheel. But for people that absolutely needed a turn signal, or they were not going to buy the car, you got it. And for the buttons on the steering wheel, I believe they are real buttons and not capacitive. I did my whole wait 60 seconds with my finger sitting on them and they worked, but Tesla could have just upped the timeout period or removed it altogether. Tesla has done such a good job making their capacitive buttons feel real that a lot of people can't even like tell the difference. And it gets even more confusing because the capacitive buttons feel just like Cybertruck's buttons, which are actually physical buttons and not capacitive. So yeah, hopefully the button timeout won't be an issue, though with the turn signals not being on the steering wheel anymore, I doubt it'd even be that big of a deal if one of your buttons does time out. As for the rest of the interior, if you've been in the new Model 3, then it's going to feel very similar. Ambient lighting wrapping all the way around the dash and extending into the rear. Door cards are slightly updated compared to the new Model 3 with speaker looking grills, and well, I assume these are speakers. As for the speakers, fantastic sound system, at least in the long range all-wheel drive I drove, which does have the premium sound system. I would say that the sound system is on par with the new 3. I've seen some people say that they think it sounded better than the new 3. I would need a lot more time, but it sounded pretty much dead on my 3. In fact, I actually found the lows to be a little bit less thumpy. It's still not as good as Cybertruck. I don't know how the Dorito has the best sound system out of Tesla's like in-house sound system in their cars. I don't know, but it does. New Y though still sounds great. And I do think it sounds better than old Y. Front and rear screens brought over from the new 3. Rear still feels like Model Y, so lots of space in the trunk, magnetic privacy cover, sub trunk, and side cubbies. The new powered folding seats are very, very nice and extra very because if you're a tall person or have your easy entry seat positioned all the way back, the seat will auto move and then return to its position when the rear seat is done folding. Rear seats are still reclining with pass-through, and they actually do feel slightly better than legacy Y rear seats. I only sat in the rear briefly, but your like backrest just felt more comfortable, and the car had less than 100 miles in it, so they weren't even like broken in. If you're looking at getting a new Y, I think you'll be very happy just off of the interior alone. That's how big of an improvement it is. As for that other complaint that I mentioned, if you've watched any of my reviews before, especially on the new 3 here, then you probably already know what it is. It's the ugly headliner, which I'm not saying that it should be like Alcantara or black by default, but I wish Tesla would at least give the option. Put it next to the seat configurator, go ahead and charge $1 to $2 grand for it. I know I would, and I know a lot of people would pay extra just to get the dark headliner. If you're new to Tesla and you're going and you're demoing one of these like new Model Ys and you don't know what I'm talking about, while it may ruin the Model Y for you and you may end up spending a lot more money, go ahead and demo an X like right after it or an S. The darker headliner just makes the car feel so much more premium. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's like an illusion with the brain, but anytime I'm in an S or an X, it feels so much more premium with that darker headliner. Okay, but now for the big questions. And these are all assuming that the like non-launch series new Y is available. Should you buy the new Model Y refresh over the old Y, even if it's more expensive for what is essentially the same car, comparing, something like long-range all-wheel drive to long-range all-wheel drive? Yes, I genuinely think that this is such a huge upgrade that even if you slightly go over your budget, you're not going to regret it. However, what if you already own a current Y? Should you sell it and buy the new Y? While I'm saying it is a fantastic upgrade, that's kind of up to you. If you already have a somewhat newer Model Y, like a 22 and up, probably not. Though if you can get out of your current one and into the new one for a like somewhat decent deal, I don't think you'll regret it. Especially if, let's say you recently purchased like a 2020, 2021 Model Y, you got a really good price on it, you can get out of it for a good price and into the new one. Oh my God, like going from pre-double paned glass, pre-comfort suspension Y, pre-Ryzen chip to this new, that would be like night and day difference. As for the people that are asking whether they should get the new Y or the new 3, the argument prior to the new Y was, do you need more space that much? Because the 3 was such an improvement over the Y that unless space was like a #1 priority, then just get a 3. However, now that the Y is on par with the 3, it's just bigger. Well, now it just goes back to the age-old question of, do you need more space? Like, do you kind of need more space? Do you think you'll need more space? If you answer yes, right, you even think like maybe in 2 or 3 years you'll need more space, then just go ahead and get the new Y. However, if you answer no, or you just prefer smaller sedans, then yeah, go ahead and get the 3. As for what I'm doing personally, you all already know I'm waiting for the new Model Y performance. And for the people that were wondering, then what am I doing with my current Model 3 performance? I'm going to be keeping that. I'm going to be keeping the 2 together. Going to be doing a lot of videos on the 2, doing a lot of comparisons, long-term ownership, and just everything in between. If you are new around here and you want to see more Tesla-related stuff in your YouTube feed, then feel free to subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one.